This video and all other videos on this channel are for entertainment purposes only. The content of this video and all other videos on this channel are the opinions of the creator only and do not constitute legal, trading, investment, or financial advice of any kind. Investing carries a high level of risk and the majority of retail clients lose money. Do not invest any capital unless you understand the risks and you are prepared to lose it all.
Alright, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and for a very long time I have been talking about some cycle lows, and I've been promising that once we get into that timing window, we'll get long, we'll set public stop loss and invalidation levels, and we'll trade these cycle lows in front of everyone. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, I think we're about there. So, because we've done this a bunch of times before, okay, and what I mean by that is because we have called out cycle lows well in advance and then gotten underneath them, put some trades on. You know, anyone that's been here for a while has seen me do this over and over and over again. Each time we do so, there are always people that are newer to cycles watching the videos that have the same kind of frequently asked questions. So what I thought I would do today is try to make this as transparent and as objective and as clear for absolutely everyone of all possible levels as possible. And so I've made myself some notes on my phone. What I want to do today is spend a few minutes spitballing about gold. Maybe not even a few minutes, it might just be one. And then we're going to talk about this cycle low. I'm going to answer the questions because I know people often say things like, oh, we've missed it, or the low was already in at here, right? Cycle low was already in at this number, as if a cycle low is just some arbitrary or slang term, right? Cycles have specific requirements. We can't just say any low is a cycle low. It just doesn't work like that. So we're going to run through this thing from the top. I'm going to do my best, like I said, to answer all the questions. I want everyone to come out of today's episode with managed expectations, understand the difference between a cycle low and some random setup, because ultimately as a trader, okay, my job is to wait for the probabilities to be significantly shifted in my favor before I act. I don't just want to be blindly long in things, betting my entire account so that I get liquidated if I'm wrong and hoping that this is the time we go to the moon, right? Instead, what I want to do is spend most of my time doing nothing at all until we get to a very high probability setup where I can say to myself, okay, if I put a trade on out of this setup, then I am significantly more likely to go straight into profit than any other time to enter the market over the past number of weeks. So that's really all this is about. Put the probability in my favor and then get a trade on, knowing that I have increased confidence of success in this trade outcome. So first of all, before we get into that, let's quickly spitball on gold. We're now seeing 85% of the Swiss gold exports heading to the USA, okay? The US is sucking the world dry with gold ahead of this audit. Now, initially I was thinking they're not going to audit it, right? But now I'm kind of piecing what I'm seeing together. We know there's been a run on the London bullion vaults. We know that London is not going to be able to deliver on any gold for a while. And it seems to me the US is scrambling to fill up Fort Knox with some gold so that it can perform some kind of audit and then say, there you go, we've got the gold, or there you go, we've got more gold than everyone thought we had. But I still don't think we can get away from the fact of whether or not they actually do it, because remember, saying it and doing it are two different things. They might just be talking about doing this and then never actually do it. But even if they do, I can't believe a live stream. Just because I see Elon walking around and picking up some shiny bricks, I can't possibly say to myself, yeah, I trust that man. Right? Why would he lie to me? I personally can't do it. Of course, if you can, that's your prerogative, that's fine. But this whole thing to me kind of seems like they are rapidly filling this vault up with gold so they can do some kind of counterfeit live stream, tell the world that, yep, the gold is there, or we've got more than we thought, or whatever. And ultimately, off the back of that, mark my words, something bad is going to happen. Now, I don't know what, okay? I have no clue, but I've just seen this kind of stuff over and over and over again. The whole world is a pony show and a stage. Nothing happens by coincidence. Nothing really happens without months and months and months, or even years of planning. You don't have to agree with me. This is my opinion, but I really think what's going to happen is some kind of pony show, some kind of smoke and mirrors show, and somehow it's going to end up we're worse off for it. I don't know how yet, okay? But this is the last I'm going to say on it now. And what we'll do is just let them either show us the gold, okay? Again, I'm not going to trust it, but you do you. Or we'll let them come up with an excuse as to why we can't get in the vault, okay? But in the meantime, I think we've kind of done this to death. All I want to do now is sit back and let this thing play out. Of course, we'll keep an eye on it as it develops. So again, we'll now let this thing play out and we'll let the evidence show us what is actually occurring here. I think one more point to make here is I would love to see them do some kind of audit and somehow it lead to higher prosperity for humanity. I would absolutely love to see that. But I will first need to see it before I believe it. I am not just going to extend my trust to the likes of these people who I happen to know are not exactly who they are pretending to be. So moving on from there, let's really nail down these cycle low trades for Bitcoin now, okay? every day for weeks I've been seeing comments saying the cycle low's already in, bro, right? And again, cycle lows are not some slang term. They're not some arbitrary low. We can't just pick any wick and say that's a cycle low, okay? It doesn't work like that. There's very specific criteria for a cycle low. And in the playlist on the channel, on the homepage of the channel, there are cycle trading tutorials for you to go and watch. Okay, so if you're interested in learning how cycles work, you can go and watch that video afterwards. But the first point I wanted to make here is we don't just get to point at any random wick and say that's a cycle low. Okay, there are specific requirements. This arrow has been here along with this yellow squiggle for a long time, and there's a reason for that. Okay, there's a reason this arrow wasn't back here somewhere. Okay, there's a reason that when we got some wick here, I didn't move the arrow here and say that's it, the cycle low's in. Okay, so that's the first thing. If you don't understand the rules, there's a tutorial in the playlist you can go and watch. The good news is we are now about to enter the clearly defined window. Okay, as you can see, we are now closer than ever about to move into the window as of the 22nd, which is tomorrow. And then all we do is simply look for one big green candle to jump on and ride this sucker to numbers that most thought were impossible. So of course, for weeks now, I've been saying two things could occur from here. Either we get my preferred look, which is a sweep of the lows, a swing low as this yellow squiggle indicates, and then as you can see by the long that is queued here, we will get long, we'll set the public invalidation level and we'll look to catch this trade. Or I said the other thing that we could see, and I hope we don't see, but either way it doesn't make much difference, and that is that instead of getting a clear and defined swing below all the lows, we get some kind of timing based low where it just kind of does this and blasts off. I've showed multiple examples of this before. If we scroll back, again, we're making this available to everybody today. We had a cycle low, okay? A fake out failed cycle, a higher low or a timing based low, and then the start of a new cycle. And whilst this one did have a clear and visible swing here, you can see number one, it was not below either of these prior lows. And number two, it did what cycles do, which is move to the upside once the timing band has been reached. Now, there's another perfect example of one of these sneaky and annoying timing-based lows. Cycle low, fake out failed cycle, okay, timing-based low, this time with no clearly visible swing, and it just kind of rounds once it enters the timing window and blasts off. Now, for the record, in case anyone didn't know, we caught that and we caught the other one. So I have no reason to doubt that whether we get the true swing that I hope we get or whether we get a timing based low, I don't think it makes a difference. I think you're still going to see me catch this in real time. So I've been saying the same two things, which is essentially swing and reverse or timing based low and go. And either way, we are now in that window where we can start to say any kind of big green candle, that's all we need to see, one big green daily candle, and we can jump on this with increased confidence that we have the cycle behind us. The reason we say one big green candle, okay, is that's typically how all of these cycles start. You can see one big green candle, okay, one big green candle. When we got a bullish cycle, we get a couple of big green candles. Okay, you can see here, one big green candle leads to a big push. The same deal here, this kind of rounds and then one big green candle and we can jump on it. So that's all we're looking for now. One big green candle confirmed with a breakout. We'll do confirmation signals in a bit and we can say, okay, we're there. The next thing I wanted to point out, because there's always some people that say, did we miss it? Is the low already in? Okay, we want to manage expectations here. The point of a cycle low is not, if this yellow squiggle plays out, to snipe the pico bottom. Okay, I know if you're brand new to markets, you probably think that's the idea. It's not how this works. Again, this is not about sniping the absolute pico low. This is not about setting a limit order at some arbitrary number and hoping it gets triggered. It is about shifting the balance of probabilities in my favor so that once the market starts to begin a new cycle and move off, I can have a trade with one, increased confidence of success, and two, that moves immediately or nearly immediately into profit. So the idea of this cycle low is not to catch the bottom, it is actually to wait for this thing to prove to me it's found a low and moved off, and then we will hop on somewhere between here and here. Okay, now I know again, a lot of people that are new to markets will think, well, we're missing it, right? Of course we want to get in here. Why would we want to get in here? Or why don't you care if we get in slightly later? Well, let me show you with some prior trades, okay? We hit this weekly cycle low here and it looked something like this. Again, you can go back and check this if you don't believe me. The members were notified in real time, as always, in the post tab. And we caught the bulk of this move, right? We got long out this weekly cycle low and I was taken out of this position on this wick right here. I moved the stop up and this wick took me out, locking in the profit between here and here. Now, why is this important? The point I'm trying to make here is simply the idea that we've missed the low, okay? Oh no, why we need to get in here. Oh no, you missed it if you get in here. You missed it if you're later up here, okay? Cast your eyes back to this neighborhood. Does it really matter if I get in anywhere from here? Does that make a big difference? What about here? Okay, obviously there is more profit in some of these scenarios than others. But to miss the low by a few K, I mean, we're not going to miss it by 20K or 15K like this, okay? But, you know, obviously we want to get in as close as possible. But the point I'm trying to make is there is no missing out here, okay? It only seems that way if you're brand new to markets. You know, if you get in at 50k, is it really that much different to 53k, 55k, even 60k? Is that really a big deal? No. So to anyone that is thinking we missed the low, understand that once more, it is not about sniping the Pico bottom. It is about waiting for the market to show us for sure we've begun a new cycle, putting the probability in our favor, and then hopping on as soon as possible. And if we get in here, okay, and this yellow squiggle scenario, yes, that's better than here, but only marginally. Does it really matter if we get in here when, remember, the target is a double from this low, which puts us all the way at 180k-ish. So if something like this is on the table, does this make much difference to you? A few K here or there, a few percentage. Now, if you're a day trader or you have no risk management and you've bet the entire farm, and if you get stopped out, you get liquidated, then I'm guessing it does matter to you, right? But as a professional that manages risk and is a swing trader, a few K amongst friends, who cares, right? So that's the next thing. There's no FOMO. There's no rush. There should be no sense of urgency here. I will wait for the market to show me and then I'll hop on. And if I can get in low down, I'll get in low down. And if the market won't confirm to me and prove to me until 103k, I don't care about that either, okay? Because ultimately, what is a few K amongst friends? I'm giving up a few percentage points in exchange for increased confidence and a trade that moves immediately into profit. So we've done my two squiggles, timing based low or swing. We've done the lows are arbitrarily being named versus nope, we need to have clearly defined windows to form a cycle low. We can't form a cycle low in some random spot, okay? We have to now cross the window and wait for this thing to show up. We've also covered that you can't really miss the low, and to manage expectations, we're not trying to get the lowest low, we're just trying to make the market show us what's going on and have increased confidence in our setup so that we can have a trade that succeeds rather than get stopped out. And we've pointed at prior trades and showed you that really what's a few K amongst friends doesn't really make much odds whether we get in here or here or here or here or here. So the next thing I want to point out here is we have to still manage risk. Just because this camel on the internet added an arrow to his chart here and said this is roughly where the cycle low should form. Just because this camel on the internet drew a yellow squiggle, and so far it seems to be playing out, does not mean that when we get long out of here, people can go all in, maximum leverage, okay, bet the farm so that you get your entire account blown up and liquidated if you get stopped out, okay? We must still be professional about this because from time to time, cycles fail, okay? If that really is the top, this will get stopped out and you will see me dump my spot. So it is no good saying, well, this camel's getting ready to go long, time to shove all in, okay? We still have to be professional about this. We still have to manage risk. This is still a business. I know for a lot of people, they just show up and gamble. A lot of people are here really just to get dopamine hits. I know a lot of people are here to try and buy a lottery ticket and hit it all in one trade. And I know, frankly, a lot of people are playing games in places that you should not play games. But if you are actually serious about doing this, if you are serious about being a professional out of this setup, then do not bet the farm, manage the risk, okay? Make sure you can survive being stopped out here in case the worst should happen. By no means is it my base case we're going to get stopped out, but if I do, I will survive. So make sure you do as well, okay? And so with all that said, we know that we are reading this market better than almost everyone, okay? Almost everyone has been trying to force bottoms the entire time, trying to call premature tops. Everyone's just kind of been getting chopped up, right? And making all these sweeping statements and nobody really has a clue, right? Except the cycle traders that it seems to be so far following the yellow squiggle into the timing window. So happy days there. We know there's only two scenarios, the V and recovery and the sideways timing base low. And either way, all we're really looking for is a big green candle to hop on, right? So it's pretty straightforward for the Camel Crew. But there's one more major important factor, okay? This is super, super, super important, especially if you're newer and unfamiliar with cycles. Again, tutorial in the playlist, PDF you can download in the pinned comment. But we must wait for a confirmation signal, okay? This is a must. This is non-negotiable. We do not just see a little move down and buy a cycle low. We do not just see some kind of move like this and say, that must be it. It's in the timing window, okay? We must buy here. The reason for this is very simple. Occasionally, it is quite rare, but occasionally we can see the market overextend and do weird things. Whilst it is not likely, whilst it would not be seen often, it is entirely possible because it's a market and everything is on the table all the time, that this cycle low could form something like this. Now, I really don't think that's likely, but again, it is a non-zero probability. Now, do you want to be seeing this pullback and just stabbing in the dark, only to watch this market keep moving down something like this? Okay, now I know my yellow squiggle is pretty extreme, okay? Obviously 60k, I don't know. I don't think so at all. But I can show you an example in this Bitcoin cycle where we saw something like this. And that was back here, okay? If we grab this timing base low and we measure out, You can see there is day 60. That would have been a perfect day 60. Now we apply a 10% tolerance, which means we can run to 66, okay, somewhere in here. But then what ended up happening was, as you can see, we got a big spill. Now, it might not look like much from this angle, but keep in mind, this is another 12% or 13% from where we're measuring it. And from top to bottom, we were already down something like 12%, okay? So we were actually only halfway down by the time we got to day 66. So if you were just stabbing in the dark here and trying to buy any random low simply because it's in the timing window, you could see you would have probably gotten wrecked. This low ended up actually forming on day 70, which is outside the window. But remember, cycles are not a holy grail, they are an edge. We can say, depending on the asset class, between 70 and 80% of all cycle lows show up inside the expected window. But that of course means 20 to 30% of them, depending on the asset class, will fall outside of that window. This happens to be one of the 20% of Bitcoins that fell outside of that window. So therefore, we cannot just get to the, let's go to the hard right edge. We can't, if we see a pullback over the next few days, just start stabbing in the dark and buying any random low, trying to snipe the Pico bottom, just in case we get an overextended spill, something like this, and then it V bottoms, okay? So be aware of that. We must have a confirmation signal. Now, for confirmation signal, I'm going to use this one. I prefer trend lines, okay? To each their own. I'll talk about a few different ways. I much prefer, and I think you're supposed to, if you use the CMT model, you're supposed to use the closes. I actually prefer the wicks. It's personal preference. You do you, okay? But right here, I like to draw a trend line and wait for that big green candle to break out, okay? And here is my entry signal with a confirmed cycle low. You can, of course, if you don't like the trend line, use a 10-period moving average and buy the close above the 10 MA. You could also use things like the MACD or some kind of stochastic momentum oscillator, and when you get across, coinciding with a big green candle, you can use a combination of all of these things or none of them at all. You could use a parabolic SAR, okay? Use whatever you want to use, but you must wait for confirmation, not go stabbing in the dark in case this move is only halfway down. So now let's apply the same concept at the hard right edge. You can probably now see, especially if you're newer, why I've got a trend line drawn, okay? I need to see price break out. And there will be people that are FOMOing in here, because I could see it in the comments on Twitter, especially yesterday. People were going, oh, cycle lows in, bro, right? But this thing is not confirmed. Not by any means, okay? In fact, Bob Lucas is saying the same thing here. It should go without saying, markets can do absolutely anything and be a humbling force, no matter how confident you are. And you should always remember this with any tweet you read. But generally, there are a few small windows in which the time is to be aggressive. Most of the time, you should be idle, and there's a time to be defensive as well. Now, this sounds an awful lot like what I often say here, doesn't it? Which is, there's a time to be in the market, there's a time to be out the market, and there's a time to go fishing. We do not have confirmation to be aggressive yet, okay? So therefore, anyone buying in here, especially aggressively, is early. Okay, they are also at risk because we are at the declining portion, the very end part of the cycle where the damage can be done. We're at risk of seeing something like this. Again, just like we saw back here, as I showed you earlier on. The final leg into a cycle low can be a shakeout. So there's a chance at the hard right edge that something like this is coming and we're only halfway down. Now keep in mind, if we're only halfway down from the top, you know, something like 10 or 18, 20%, okay, then there might be another 10 to 20% down, which in the worst case scenario could see us at 77k, okay, or even at 40% down if we're only halfway down top to bottom. We could be somewhere as low as 65k. I don't think it's likely, okay, I really don't, but we can't rule it out. So you must wait for confirmation. If we do get some kind of big low shakeout, you don't want to be fearful. You want to be buying this thing aggressively, but again, we must wait for confirmation. So this is why I've set this trend line. This is why I'm not stabbing in the dark yet. If we start to break out here, as I've been consistent in saying, then we can respect the breakout because we are late enough in the cycle that the thing is probably looking to move higher. But so far, objectively speaking, I've seen a whole heap of people that were in here calling tops the entire time. Then suddenly we get to here and they go, cycle lows in, bro, I'm buying heavy, you're late, Camel, you missed it, right? And yet we are still not quite in the threshold for the window. And there's zero confirmation signals so far. Okay, so for anyone that's thinking they missed it, anyone that's got FOMO, relax. There's no need to do anything at this moment, okay? If we start to break out, then those breakouts can be respected. But on a balance of probabilities, we still have yet to see any true and easily identifiable swing low. There's still no true cycle low here. And we know, as I said earlier, on a balance of probabilities, 70 to 80% of these lows, depending on asset class, fall inside of this timing window. So with a 70 to 80% probability, we can say the low is not yet in. Could this be one of the 20% of the times that it breaks out early? Of course it could. But is that the smart bet? No. Not at this moment in time. So let's continue to look for one or two scenarios. the current one, which is a rejection here, one final lower low, and then it is time to get long. And of course, the other one we got to keep an eye on is something more like this, and then boom, big green candle, hop on slightly higher up. Okay, stop would still be roughly in the same place, and then boom. Okay, off we go to the races. So it's been a long time coming. I'm looking forward to being able to talk about something else. As you can see right now, I think I've covered all bases. Hopefully I've answered all the questions that you may or may not have had. I think you should definitely go and watch the tutorial and download the PDF from the pinned comment, especially if you're newer to trading or you're newer to cycles and you don't really understand what you're looking at. If you're going to watch this channel, you really ought to understand cycles, since that's pretty much all we do here, right? So if you don't understand the rules, then I don't get why you would watch the content at all. The big picture here remains unchanged, okay? We're still heading down towards that weekly cycle low. Again, we are closer than ever now. And then, based on the profile of the prior cycles, we are looking for around 100% upside move. So it's been a long time coming. I'm glad we're finally here. I'm also liking this, which is that we may well have done 1, 2, 3, 4, and now 1, 2 again, 3, 4, and 5 to give us this right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see this star may just be where we are now. Now, it doesn't have to go as parabolic as this, but would it really surprise you if Bitcoin did something akin to this and ended up at $250,000 plus? I don't know. Not to me, it wouldn't. Not to me at all. So we'll find out. I absolutely love this chart. I do think something like this is possible. How likely it is, I don't know. I certainly think this is likely with a double, and that will put us around 180k. Perhaps we could end up seeing something even more insane. And remember, take your time, okay? The window to be aggressive is slowly approaching us, but we're not quite there yet. There's certainly no confidence in the current setup since it is yet to be confirmed. So figure out what you're going to use for confirmation. Stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed, turn the notifications on so you can see me hit this trade in real time. If you're a level 3 member, as always, I will notify you in real time when we get long. I will also spend a great deal of time tomorrow in the level 3 members video going through a whole heap of these crypto stocks, because I'm going to be playing a bunch of those as well, because I'm convinced that they are about to rip. So I'll show you that on the members video at the weekend. For everyone else, please do come back tomorrow for the weekend's deep dive. Please do tune in every day and make sure you can see me hit these trades in real time. There's still no changes to the stock market, really. I would say there's still no changes to gold either. And of course, Bitcoin, we have done to death. So other than that, I hope you are doing well in life. I hope you found value here today. And I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Until next time, take care from me. All the best. Cheers. Bye.
Camel Finance, he's the man to see. Rocking the markets with his contrarian spree. Trades like a pro, no fear, no shame. Sticking to his guns in his money game. He's a badass, oh yes indeed. Camel Finance got the markets key. Taking us stormies on